Doug's at 11, 12. Or spent the night in the ER, carrying feet.
Yeah, let's
Developed chest pains and heart rate climbed to 120. The cardio showed she was at 850. So far, we don't have any explanation why her heart rate is so high and what is causing her chest pain. Doctor says it's not a heart attack. No idea yet how long she'll be in the hospital, so we'll keep everyone updated. Good news, she does not have any lung.
Last time she was in AFib, her heart reset on its own overnight.
Yeah.
If that happens, she'll go home in the morning. If it doesn't, they'll move to cardioversions. So home tomorrow, she'll go home tomorrow.
So they'll restart.
Yeah, they'll
So it's like the
jump started.
Yeah.
AFib is scary.
Yeah. She,
I would have said like,
Everybody's Kool-Aid.
the chest pain and tightness was from the heart beating so rapid. 140 beats a minute. For somebody over like that.
You don't
What's
like
the
the way-
solution?
I don't like the way.
Okay, well, we'll move on that way.
Cut the corners, we'll make it round.
Warm it up.
We don't have to be round.
No, because.
Just general.
No, that is not true. I know other people who don't like it. I'm not gonna say that.
I
Good.
I'm not there on this level.
I don't know, we might be one for left.
Oh, that.
like it. I hear just fine, I hear about that. I hear about just fine.
Okay, well, let's get started. Girls, I think you just sent me a text. Yeah, he sent me a text. Oh, good. He's not doing great. So, get home, watch the weather. What's that? Yeah.
I don't know her number.
You called it before, Ron. You got it.
I got 94. On that printer sheet, might put down there with why. He told me quite a while back that she was showing signs of some connection. Hey, we're about ready to start here. Okay. Hi, Janice. I'll do it. Okay.
No, I used it, I just forgot to bring it, it's sitting on the dresser.
I understand good. You said, she said that,
Genesis 7.
Start at 7:30.
7:15.
Yeah. All right, let's look at the spread list real quick. So, Earl not being great, they're not gonna be here. Kenny Carrot, obviously, they're not gonna be here. So I got Denise, she will be heading back tomorrow. Coach, she's remember her and our family, seeing family, our laws, and we got going on. So you remember Karen and Earl, and Cindy, Vance, Kelly, myself, and our help. Again, just keep all of us each other in prayer. It's just, daily, remember each other, just pray. With your family, you guys are famous, really, really family. Cynthia, this week on people, Kathy, what's Kathy's last name?
B-A.
Oh, thank you.
Just did.
That's fine.
This is the time of year when her husband has,
Is that what it was?
she suffers every.
same time, it can be encouraging to think about it because our great large trouble, it's all used. If you get ugly, we probably will see it really bad was not here in the United States, but it's just the signs of the time, you know. It's these are redemption, God, and life. It's but, you know, our day's coming. So we need encouragement. Let's pray with the Lord. By the Spirit, encourages those that are on the front lines. There's a fellow that I was following on Facebook. He was a homosexual guy, and the Lord saved him. And out of that, he married, got kids, and now he gets a business, and he sold his business. And now what he does is he stands outside of an abortion facility in Chicago, and intervenes and he just calls out to people that are going for abortion, just tries to talk to them and prays with them. And so far, he's managed to stop 56 abortions. People come and change their mind. Yeah, one lady came back with her baby. So, yeah, that was pretty cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, so, he's been assaulted. He hasn't been arrested because they're very, very careful. They don't lock doors or anything like that. They stand a ways off and call us and say, hey, you know, they're supported financially. And he said, he tells them, he says, look, we'll do through the whole process. We'll get you what you need. We'll help you along the way. So, I mean, he's had some success. And there's lots of people like that. A lot of roads, I think. There's another one. She approaches it from a different angle. There's people out there doing the work out there in the streets, if you will. The Lord is every prayer. A lot of prayers for encouragement. Let's see. So remember missionaries that are out there sharing the gospel. There's a family out of Iraq that we used to live. He's teaching Bible school. Goes to Africa. Training pastors, training pastors. Preach the word. Maybe he's still saying Africans.
We know Paul Wilson, and he's from the Philippines, or he's been to the Philippines. And anyway, his big thing is planting churches. And I guess they have to instruct the pastors. And I got an email from him just, last week, I guess. Anyway, they've been very successful in there, although he did get shot. Because one of the, somebody was against him, naturally, but anyway, he did get shot. And there's a church in Eureka Springs that has, as his brother is the pastor of that church. So that's the reason
It's also remembering the Newton family as a whole. Kathy. And also, I want to mention this brother mentioned his wife mentioned. Not other than that, so some things that you mentioned perhaps or something. You might mention something. Just keep each other in prayer.
Yeah, I haven't met her either, I think.
So, let's just remember, I mean, that kind of falls underneath the church meeting. So let's just lift each other up. And obviously, y'all know, like I said, things going on in the world around us right now, it's kind of, it's really mind-boggling, the things that are happening, you see going on. You know, in scripture, that some of these things have to happen, will happen as a precursor.
Seeing how fast they're happening and how many of them are connected together.
Yeah, it's all,
They're all over the place, but they're all central.
yeah. But again, it says in, I think it's Revelation 19, the Lord reigns, Christ still reigns. He who sits in the heavens, what does it do? He laughs. He laughs as they've been raging for 2,000 plus years, you know. He just laughs. He has. We should be bold. We should be at peace. Look, this is going. Our Father, who art in heaven, reigns.
These things, let us come to pass.
Right.
And if it's not possible, you can avert elected people.
Well, let's go to the Lord in prayer. Let's remember these. Let's remember each other. Let's Lord, let's mention our Father, we are at the quiet places in your presence, a place of rest and peace. The Lord tells us that He abides in the shadow of the Almighty. I messed up. Abides under your wings and rest in the shadow of the Almighty. Father, in your presence is peace. In your presence, Father, is comfort and profound joy, Lord. In spite of all the stuff going on around us, all the difficulties of life, the tragedies of lives, sicknesses, politics, the way our world is going, all these things, Lord, control our minds. We pause for a moment to reflect on who it is that rules and reigns, and as your word says, you reign. All power is yours. And you do indeed, you sit in heaven and laugh at the affairs of men and their plans and the raging and their schemes. Or you are not frustrated or flustered by man's plans or advance in what they do. You're not disturbed by these things. You rule, even in the midst of his anger, you rule over him. That's our comfort, that's where our hope is. And we thank you, Father, that you gave us life, you gave us the gift of faith, Father, to trust and to believe God. Oh, we thank you for your kindness towards us and that you gave to us in Christ, Father, and through him, by his blood, Father, made us alive unto yourself, and you freed us from the judgment, and you come back, and you set us free from that. Oh God, we rejoice in that. We give thanks to you, receiving those things. Oh, yeah, you list here things that are concerned to us, and we ask you to take note of them. And even as we'll see tonight, Lord, that you would remember them. Lord, and answer from your heart. And you can see that on me. I pray and ask that you bring these home safely. That you cover some travels and protect her from evil and family when it's moving and that you might walk through. Lord, I pray my family to you. And not only my family, Father, my kids, Lord, our church family. So there's few of us here at the table, Lord, but we have family, Father, that obviously things are on their lives. We pray for them, we pray for each other. Lord, we pray that you use your word to encourage, inspire each one of us, Lord, to press on in our Father faith. No matter what we see going on around us, Lord, that we may keep an eye on you and rest in that. sister Karen, her heart rate tonight, Lord, I ask you to slow her heart rate down, put it back in rhythm as only you can. Lord, you give her a good night's sleep and rest, and also Kim. So hard to sleep in a hospital, Father. I just pray that you give them rest tonight. Lord, lift up those, the church worldwide, your servants, all your Lord, Father, sharing the gospel and ministering and raising up men for the pulpit. I pray, Father, that you would be with each one of them and encourage them. Lord, I pray you would protect them. I pray that all the work they do with your gospel and the word goes forth in the power and the Holy Spirit. And that they would accomplish everything that they set out to do. Lord, lift up that fellow, Lord, there in Chicago, and also Lyle Rose, and ministers, and seeks to minister against Lord, but also to minister to those that maybe have had an issue. Lord, I pray that they'll experience grief, but then finally seek out comfort and mercy from you. I pray you'll use the tragedy in their life that they draw to yourself. And no one can go beyond your love and your care. I pray that God has been so far and granted him 86 babies. Lord, I pray that you would give him, I pray that you would reach the number of this month. That you'll spare 14 more babies from the bars and abortion. Spare the lives of the children. Grant them to be successful and provide those, Father. She bless her efforts and ministry. Those who work with her and support her, I pray continue to go in all that he does. See that you intervene on behalf of child sex trafficking. Or you lift them up and ask you, Father, to do what you can do, what you see fit for you to support the ministries and others. Lord, I pray for the people down all that they deal with. I pray for Cynthia tonight to strengthen her body and the process of healing and grace, Lord, that you would heal her body. Pray for Sister Janice tonight, strengthen her body. For Karen, Earl, and Lord, we ask you to heal them, Father, and give them Lord grace. They might feel better. Pray for my brother Kelly, pray for myself. Each of us here, Lord, they have some health issues going on one way or another. We thank you for life, Father. You sustain us by your Spirit, by your breath of your Spirit, Father. You give us life. We thank you, Father. We ask you to sustain us through all of that. Remember our sister Cameron. This season of her life, Father, where she lost her husband. Lord, would you encourage her in those dark moments, Father? Lord, pray for Nikki. There's dementia and people on there that you would be working on her heart, Father, please. So we said, we never met her. I pray for her soul. You have mercy upon her. Bring her into our fellowship, Father. I pray for all that you need, not my name. Lord, we love you. Thank you so much for your kindness towards us. You gave us Jesus, and you have reconciled us to you. God, how wonderful that is, how glorious. Your grace is so great. Your kindness is so, you are indeed merciful and kind. Oh Lord, we love you. We pray that you give us the greatest opportunities to share the kindness of our life through your Son, Jesus. We pray in his name. Okay, according to the great theologian Ron, he said, I've got you verse 13 of chapter 7 last week. So just to know what all y'all discussed, but I just wrote some notes. This guy's kind of review. Was that?
Rabbit trail,
Yeah.
but it was good.
Rabbit is good thing. So, verse 1, it says that, chapter 7, that God spoke to Noah, the Lord spoke to Noah. Notice in your Bible should say Lord, L-O-R-D, capital L-O-R-D, that's Yahweh. Said to Noah, enter the ark in your household for you. Now, my Bible has an italics. You, I have seen you be righteous before him. My Bible says alone. Let's go with that. But what constitutes righteousness before God? What constitutes righteousness? How can a man be right before God? You believe God. There's a difference between believing in God and believing God.
Obviously, there's a pretty deep communication with God.
Yeah, fellowship.
It was in fellowship.
Yeah. Lots of the demons believe in God. They don't believe in God. Lots of people say, well, I believe in God. Big deal. The demons believe and tremble. But I don't believe in God. That's different. Because what is Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 says? That's faith. 11:6 says, and you, to please God, you have to have faith. It says, he who comes to him must believe that what? He is. And then he's a rewarder of those who have faith in him. It's a difference. You believe God. Lord, I believe. That's what they told, that's what the disciples told Jesus. Oh, we believe. Help our unbelief. So Noah believed the Lord. When the Lord called him and said, hey, build a boat. He said, okay. And it took, what, 120 years, something like that, to build the ark. So just the act of building that boat speaks to Noah's belief that God said it's going to rain. You know, they didn't know what it was. So he believed God. And like Kelly pointed out too, he had a fellowship with his maker. It's available to each and every one of us through Christ. It's that simple. It really is. It's that simple. I was talking to Ken at the hospital. He was up there earlier. And it comes down to that. Have you got at his word? You know, somebody said it earlier. I think it was great. He said, man, somebody forgive me. Lord, I'm with you all. I'll never leave you, I'll never forsake you. My lips can't. Yeah. Believe in the Lord. Believe in him. What he said, his promises are true. And then on the animals, did y'all talk about the animals? Came in by sevens and came in by twos. And sevens, it's unknown because it's not clear if it's 7 pairs of clean animals or was it 7 clean animals?
Seven pairs of.
Yeah, some
But one of them would be a bachelor.
the sacrifice.
Yeah, the sacrifice.
That's
The sucker's gone.
yeah, that's what some would say, because you have a male and a female, three pairs, it's 6, and you have one extra that would be offered as a sacrifice. Or it could be 7 pairs of animals. And then the unclean animals were only about 2s. No real reasons given, actually. It's really no why. We discussed it Saturday morning about, well, I don't want to get ahead. It's in verse 2, 3, 4. And verse 4, they went into the ark, and he says, in 7 more days I will send rain, 4 days of work rain, and in verse 10, after that week, let get the animals in there, set up. vein. Now, there's something important to note. Noah building that ark to specific dimensions. And you gotta lay it out, here's the blueprint for it, and you gotta do it this way. He didn't sit down and explain to Noah, by building it this way, it's gonna support all its animals, and it'll have buoyancy, it'll float right, it won't topple over. He didn't explain all that to him. But Noah, it was very important for Noah to build it to those exact specifications. And one out of the reasons. Because there's a reason behind it. Both or flip over. Yeah. You know, it was long enough so it wasn't going to go this way. It wouldn't leave. And Noah's obedience, and maybe I'm drawing too much into this, but here in a second, the door's going to close up. It's got to be tight. It's got to be sealed. So the Lord shuts it.
You know, I write the Ten Commandments, they seal the door just like that.
Yeah.
Shut it.
He shut it and it had to be snug, it had to be tight. And then, obviously, the Lord had to put the pitch on it. You know? I didn't think about that until I was reading, kind of thinking about it. Because he had the pitch all over the other parts of the woods. So the Lord had to show up and actually put the pitch on it. But what else did God do? What do you think? Okay, it starts to rain, it's the end of the week, all the animals are on there. Noah and his family are inside. It's starting to rain. And the Lord has to shut the ark door. What else would they have? Now we're stretching our minds a little bit. What do you think was going on once it started raining?
Inside the house, grabbing and getting.
People trying to get in.
People trying to get in,
Never showed up.
I bet they did.
Now there's no mention of it.
They had to, they've been watching him for 100 years.
But the Lord shut the door, he couldn't open it.
God shut it.
Even though he might have wanted to,
Yeah.
hear them crying.
God shut the door.
This is just conjecture, and y'all can. But here on Saturday morning, we used to conjecture. Lord stood out there and said, "Oh, y'all had your shot. Well, I tell you, y'all have been sitting around and watching for 120 years. And you chose to ignore it. Sorry, Lord. Like a bouncer at the bar.
Not one person.
Not one person.
Not one person.
It blows my mind that not one person couldn't.
Yeah, because they could have come 3 weeks ahead of
I'll
time and
leave when
said,
it starts
"Right, we
raining."
might have something."
They-
They could have walked in and said, "Hey, maybe Noah's got something going on, we need to get involved with it." They just still had a chance, but
Yeah, there's something in chapter 9, first part of let's see.
My understanding that people agreement never, you what that people.
No, we'll get to it. Down.
Go ahead. I've been talking to Jewish, so he was debating an atheist. He's a firm believer in evolution, no matter what. I bring up, and, well, you know, that's talking about, they copied that from Gilgamesh, that epic, the story. And so I looked at that, and Gilgamesh supposedly was a giant, and he built his ark, but his was a giant cube, which was not seaworthy at all. And it flooded out in 6 days. So you tell me Genesis is copying that? I don't think so. All our modern ships are built on the same patterns and all.
Yeah, you don't see too many people wide boats. They're always long and narrow. Because it's more efficient. So, you also, you probably have thought about this too. How many days and nights did it rain? Well, they rained for 40 days and 40 nights.
Yeah.
Well,
Hard
yeah.
time.
yeah.
But, flood was.
Long enough to kill all the giants.
Yeah. Well, 40 is the number of suffering in the Bible. Yeah, well, suffering, but also punishment. What's that? Yeah.
I'm not being so.
So, from my recollection, that 40 days is the first 40 in the Bible that demonstrates punishment, discipline, correction. So you have the 40 days and nights of the flood, followed up by 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. You had 40 years with Joseph in prison. Then you had 40 years of wandering, 40 stripes in Deuteronomy. He set out to punish somebody, and he said 40 lashes. And don't go over 40 so that he'll have a charge against you. That's Deuteronomy 25. When Christ was received the stripes, Paul said, I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 times, he said, or twice I've been beaten, 40 stripes minus 1, or 40 whacks minus 1. They always would go to 39. It's a miscount. They didn't want to go too far. And Christ was, he fasted for 40 days. And then was tempted after the fact. He wasn't tempted during the fast. He was fasting. When Satan captured him, he came out.
That was when Satan was telling Jesus his authority.
Yeah.
This is my world, I can give you all this, all you gotta do is worship.
Right. So 40 is that number of suffering that God, and this is the thing that we can learn. God is a God of order. Okay, you can do anything he wants to, but he has an order about it. That he does, and you can count on that. And it's just, and I don't think it's stretching to apply that principle to other areas of our lives.
From the names of the people to
Right.
everything.
There's like I think I said it Sunday, there is not one rebel molecule anywhere in all of creation. There is no rogue. That's what it was. Archie Sproul said. There are no rogue molecules. Everything is as it should be. Exactly. The Lord omnipotent reigns for His glory. Everything works to that end. Okay? Everything, every bit of your life, every bit of my life, it ends in the glory of God, for His glory. How we respond is to His glory.
I was talking to a minister years ago, and he had a list of numbers in the Bible, like 7 or
Yeah.
40 or
3, 6, all
yeah.
that.
And he had a list of, because I was asking him a question about those numbers. And he said that, well, kind of what you're saying, that God has numbers for everything, while 7 is considered perfection.
Yeah, completeness of perfection.
So, and 6 is deals with man.
A little lower than the angels.
Yeah.
A little lower than the angels.
So, yeah, everything has a number to it, according to him, or according to this booklet.
Yeah. It's called numerology, and I've seen things on it.
Yeah,
The numbers that stick out is 43, 3, 7, 40, and 6.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are others,
oh,
you know. Let's see. What's that?
Jubilee year.
Yep. Yeah. That's 7 years or
49.
49, which is 7 times 7.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to get into reading.
So,
I've got the book of
Where
Jubilees.
is it where it took him, shows how long it took him to build the ark? I'm trying to find that. Hold on,
I
Mike.
think in verse 11 it says in the 600th year, but also somewhere back it says when he started it, how old he was. That's just the math.
Okay.
Somewhere in there.
Okay. So it doesn't actually say that, it just,
Yeah, the years.
You
I'm
have-
sure I added up.
In the New Testament, something about 120 years, pretty active.
Maybe that's what it was. I might have looked at that.
I'm just
Not
curious.
one convert, 120 years, that's pretty discouraging.
It's a long time.
So it gives, even the, day of the month that,
Yeah. Kind of specific.
yeah.
So, I always do this, and just get started and don't read, but you want to pick up from verse 13. Verse 12 says, the rain fell upon the earth for 40 nights. Verse 13 starts, it says, on the very same day, Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth, the son of Noah, Noah's wife and the 3 wives of his sons with them entered the ark. And they and every beast after its kind, they were all the cattle after their kind, and every creeping thing creeps on the earth after its kind, every bird of its kind, and all sorts of birds. So they went to the ark to Noah by twos of all flesh, which was the breath of life. Those that entered male and female of all flesh entered as God had commanded him, and the Lord closed it behind him. Then the flood came upon the earth for 40 days, and the water increased and lifted up the ark so it rose above the earth. The water prevailed, increased, and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark floated on the surface of the water. The water prevailed more and more upon the earth, so that all the high mountains everywhere under the heavens were covered, and the water prevailed 15 cubits higher, and the mountains were covered. And all flesh that moves on the earth perished, birds, cattle, beasts, every swarming thing that swarms upon the earth, and all mankind. Of all that was on the dry land, all whose nostrils was the breath of the Spirit of life died. And he blotted out every living thing that was upon the face of the land, from man to animals, creeping things, and birds of the sky, and he blotted out from the earth. And only Noah together with those that were with him. The water prevailed upon the earth 150 days. What didn't die? Yeah, stars and all that. And I wonder, I thought, okay, he killed everything that breathed air.
He said they breathed through his nostrils.
Through their nostrils. Everything, that's, because it, Genesis 2 verse 7, that's where it says he made man, and he breathed into man the breath of life, he breathed into his nostrils the breath of life. Another passage is, why do you worry about man whose breath is in, whose life is in his nostrils? It says that in another passage in Job. He was destroying, he was getting rid of man. The animals were a secondary consequence. They were, they were just collateral damage, exactly. The way to kill a man is to drown, which is what they did. When Jesus talked about the little children, and he says, you make one of these fellows stumble, one of these children stumble, it's better you have a millstone tied around your neck and cast it in the sea. Why not grind them with a millstone or something? Because drowning to the Jew is the worst way to die. From the flood. Even Denise is scared to death of drowning.
Me too.
Yeah, it's gotta be pretty horrific. Think about it.
Just kind of talk about Noah's 3 sons. Were they helping him build the ark?
Probably.
Then they got married, but they didn't have any, there were no children.
Right.
Not till later.
Yeah. That's probably.
Very disciplined. They were helping their dad.
Yeah.
They just probably rolled it.
God was hilarious. God didn't give him kids, children, grandkids until later. But
Well, you know, with the millions of people on there, if you think you would find a lot more skeletal human fossils, skeleton in the other. But there's a lot of sea creatures that probably ate them. They could probably, well, they had a year to feast on them, so I'm good.
yeah,
They took care of that.
this guy is roaming everywhere.
Oh, buffet.
Yeah, the animals, you know, when we sinned, or mankind at that point had sinned, everything was affected. You know, there's all consequences of it. I don't, we discussed this a little bit on Saturday morning, talking about the animals in this book. Don't know that God didn't have concern or care that the deer, or that the antelope, or the giraffe, or whatever drowned. I don't think that he did that without some sort of concern. But his priority was his priority. It wasn't the animals that were wicked, it was mankind that was wicked. But man's behavior has serious consequences.
Well, man's behavior now is very similar to.
Nothing's changed.
Days of Noah.
Well, he's going to say it in a second.
Well, when you think about how far-reaching was sin and fall, Hebrews says it reached the heavens, but Jesus had to go to the heavenly sanctuary for his blood, to pay, to make
Offer atonement.
So it was pretty far-reaching and affected everything. Maybe that's when we'll start eating each other, who knows?
I wouldn't argue with you about that at all. It affected everything.
Yeah.
Creation, if creation itself, like it says in Romans, groans under it, you know. It wasn't as it was, and the whole goal of everything is to put it back like it was. Where we fellowship with him on a daily basis without the hindrances of
Yeah,
sin.
eventually, and the millennium meat eaters will be vegetarians. So.
Yeah. So going into verse 8, chapter 8, he goes on and he says, but God remembered Noah and all the beasts and all the cattle that were within the ark. And God caused the wind to pass over the earth and the water subsided. One of the commentators said, it says God remembered. It's not like God forgot about Noah. But the word remember carries with it an idea of being concerned. You know, I know what I've done here. I know full well what I've done. And it's time to put you out. Because it demonstrates, you know, you think about it, the water, he caused the wind to blow across the water, and across the earth, and the water starts to subside. Noah opens up, and there's nobody around. It's just him and his boys and his family, that's it. So they probably saw bodies. Maybe, I don't know, but you know, it's like the elephant in the room. You know, they come out, and the Lord is there, and there's nobody else. And they're aware of what they were saved from, what they escaped.
Well, one thing about it, God put the animals on the ark, of their kind. And so he wasn't, he was trying to, I think it was trying to, or did, save the animals, even though house died in the flood. But he was reaching out, trying to, rather than recreate everything,
Yeah,
he just,
yeah, replenish the earth with them.
yeah.
Absolutely.
A lot of people think, well, you know, there's so many different kinds of dogs, of course. All you had to have was 2 pairs, 7 fleas.
Yeah.
And from there, we get all these different kinds of dogs, horses, and stuff, so we'd have to have that many animals
Yeah.
on the yard.
Dogs are only, they're like 2 months, right? That, like they're, you know, dogs gestation, whatever gestational period is like 2 months. It's not very long for dogs.
Yeah.
Less time for rabbits, I think. Elephants is like a
2 years.
something like that.
I think it's 2 years.
Pretty long to do that.
And they didn't have to take full grown animals,
Yeah, that's true.
small, the babies.
I found my note here about Noah building the ark over that long period of time. It shows the importance of obedience and faith and patience. Because God said something was going to happen. And Noah just day in, day out for 120 years. You know, working on this boat, not knowing if he's going to see the completion of it.
Yeah.
I guess he probably felt like he would. But Hebrews, twice in Hebrews and also Peter, 2 Peter, speaks to the long process of walking faithful with God, because God's promises are slow sometimes. And 2 Peter is God's word, you know, it says promises are slow like we count slowness. Okay, there's a massive difference. And, right. And God has made a statement, this is going to happen. It's going to happen. And our duty is to be obedient. You know, through faith and patience. Trust in the Lord. You know, He's going to come back. We may not see it. And we might see it. We might be the fortunate ones actually to do see it happen. Whereas everybody else prior to this to now has died in faith, believing that a day is coming. But they also died in faith, knowing that they would see it momentarily. They would be in His presence. We won't necessarily see the return of Christ in that, but we know that it's coming. And that's the true test of the Christian, really, is, you know, because they're going to say, where's the promise of He's coming? That's 2 Peter. Says, you keep saying He's coming, you keep saying He's coming. You've been saying it for 2,000 years. And the early church, they thought He was coming right back. They really thought He was going to come back tomorrow. You know, He's just gone for a minute. But then, you see Paul and James,
They still hold on to that.
all of them get martyred.
Yeah.
You start to wonder, what, you know, didn't He say He was coming and He's not here?
Well, the difference is, Israel only became a nation in 1948. So
Yeah.
anything before that, pretty well discounted.
Yeah. That generation that sees it,
Although Gabeline in 1596, Israel would become a nation again, nobody believed it.
yeah. Nobody would have ever thought.
Yeah, well, it's never been done in the history of mankind. One nation disappeared and then comes back.
Yeah.
The only one, that's pretty miraculous.
Yeah. We see it, you know, we see because number one, we've been born again through the eye of faith. We can see it and you wonder why nobody else sees it. Why do they not even consider that? I mean, just what I shared with you today. It's like, this is like a plain on the nose in your face. You don't see this, and they're just so spiritually blinded. They cannot see the forest for the trees. So now, okay, God has remembered Noah and all beasts, and because the wind, and the bounds of the deep, and the floodgates of the sky were closed, and the rain from the sky was restrained, and the water too
steadily from the earth. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Yes, it evaporated.
Still here.
It's still,
It's still here.
it's still here. Takes a different form. Going on to chapter 8, verse 4, he says, in the 7th month, on the 17th day of the month, the ark rested on the mountain of Ararat. The water deceived steadily until the 10th month. Then it came about at the end of 40 days that Noah opened the window of the ark which he had made, and he sent out a raven. And it flew here and there until the water was dried up in the earth. I reckon the raven just decided he wasn't coming back. He had started and it cooped up for 40 days. Ravens can coast, right? Can't they just?
Yeah.
They can be
Yeah.
flying.
Doves can't.
Well, here it's noted that raven scavenger would have no trouble finding food or qualms about perching on any slimy surface. So apparently, these do not currently are.
Yeah. But doves,
They don't
they don't,
They may fly for one thing.
they don't sail. They fly, they have to rest.
Right.
Was a rat mountain, was
Arrow.
that a country? A rat a country?
No, it's not.
Well, it says the mountain of it, so it's not just one mountain.
No, mountain chain there, Eric.
Yeah.
So nobody knows which mountain it was, just the
Well-
mountain of it.
Well, they have an idea themselves.
Okay. For one, you gotta think about when this was written, when Moses envisioned those sort of mountains of Ararat. But yeah, Mount Ararat now, the Mount Ararat is in Turkey. So it's a region, that's what we name
Mountains, but there's mountains.
Yeah. A region of Ararat. Like if I was a decent person, I would probably look up what this Ararat stand for.
A rat. Where the rats live.
Yeah, so he sent out a raven, and the raven never came back. Like Ron and I have the exact same Bible. Raven is the scavenger, the dove isn't. But he sent the dove out, but the dove found no place to rest, so she came back. And it's back in verse 9, it says, for the water was still on the surface of all the earth. And he put out his hand and took her in and brought her into the ark, and then he waited 7 days and sent the dove out. And the dove came back with an olive branch, which now we see that as a peace offering. Generally speaking, it's sort of I don't know what's the right word, euphemism or analogy, offering an olive branch.
Does that mean that a tree had grown up already?
Well, not that the trees ever really got destroyed, they just flooded.
Well, they had to be.
Yeah, that was still there. Not necessarily, I wouldn't say. They were just trees in the water.
Yeah, but that water was several hundred thousands of feet deep. Because this guy was the highest mountain peak.
Everest. Well, wherever it could just be that she found it, and therefore, all dry land.
Picked it up.
Yeah. He waited 7 more days and he sent out the dove, but she never came back. So he tells us in verse 13 of chapter 8, it says, now it came about in the 601st year, in the first month, on the first of the month, the water was dried up, and they'll remove the covering of the earth. Behold, the surface of the ground was dried up. And on the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry, and God spoke to Noah, saying, go out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons, and bring out with you all the animals that are breathing and still alive. I'm paraphrasing and skipping. So Noah went out, and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives with him, verse 19. Every beast, every creepy thing, every bird, everything that moves on the earth went out by their families from the ark. Now, the last part, verse 20. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord and took of every clean animal and every clean bird and offered burnt offerings on the altar. Hence the reason behind having so many clean animals and not unclean animals.
Right.
because he was going to offer sacrifices afterwards. In verse 21, the Lord smelled the soothing aroma, and the Lord said to himself, I will never again curse the ground with common man, for the intent of man's heart is evil from his youth, and I will never again destroy every living thing as I have done. Nothing changed in the nature of man's heart. Even Noah, the righteous man. You see, the righteousness wasn't in Noah being a good guy. The righteousness of Noah was in that he believed God. That's the difference. Believing the Lord, believing who He is, believing what He says. When I first shared my testimony publicly at a church, it was funny that 10 years later I was actually a music minister at that church. But I didn't know it. I mean, I didn't even go to that church. It was just, that's where we did a Sunday night service. When I shared my testimony, I shared it like this. A marathon runner, guys that run 26.2 miles, you know. About after that 10th mile, for me, after that first mile, I'm ready to quit. Okay? I can't run nowhere now, but all the...
Make 10 yards.
Yeah, I'm with you. All a runner's got to do is stop running. Any person long distance runner, this is just how I compared it. All you got to do is stop running, and you'll catch your breath. The pain of the run, the hardness, how hard it is, how difficult it is, all that stops just because you stop. Simply stopping. That's how simple that is. Believing upon Christ is simpler than that. Just believing what the Lord is saying. I believe it. That's the appeal that's the gospel appeal to people. Look, this is, you don't have to do nothing. You just need to believe what the Lord has said. He's going to work inside, and He'll do all the cleaning. He'll work it. He works it from the inside out. And just because we're hard-headed, we want to see all this other stuff. Well, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. And that's just not the Lord's way. It's like, I'll do the saving, you do the believing. It's that simple. Man's heart. And He says, I'll never curse the ground on account of man. And it was like man's heart was evil, only evil. The intent of man's heart was only evil. It says, for the intent of man's heart is evil. Noah's, Shem, Ham, did I say it right? Japheth, wives, the hearts of men are still evil to this day. That did not change. But it got so out of hand. So He said, we got to do better. We got to stop it.
Ararat means mountain of descent, stemming from Armenian and Hebrew roots.
Mountain of descent?
Descent, yep.
It probably wasn't called Ararat at the time, but Noah landed on it. Because you think about it, it's a mountain, and they came down from the mountain. And that's why it was called that.
So the other one is sacred land, high land, mountain of descent, stemming from Armenian and Hebrew roots.
Yeah.
That's what we...
And then as a final note, there's been arguments about was the flood universal, to flood the entire planet. And, it didn't make a lot of sense to flood the entire planet, but maybe the entire planet didn't have people on it. Maybe perhaps that might be true, but the rainbow, the covenant, can be seen anywhere on the planet. So the argument sort of fails in that sense. The flood covered the whole entire planet. Right. And then the covenant covers the whole entire planet that He's going to make with Noah through the rainbow. And I've never looked at it. I'm going to try to see if I can find out why a rainbow. Why you choose that? Although all the covenants involve killing an animal of some sort of more. This is just a rainbow in the sky.
There probably wasn't any rainbow before the flood.
Every generation forever will have evidence
with the rainbow.
That's true. Yeah, without actually explaining it down, well, there you go, that's a good answer. That's probably right. Because anybody can see it, and it's, everybody knows what it's for, everybody knows what the rainbow is for. Some believe it, some they say it, they just know the story. And it's
Doesn't have anything to do with your pronoun, does it?
nothing.
Dying.
when we were in Colorado,
Saying that.
I was coming down from I don't know what, did some work for a fellow. I was coming down from his house down Mountain Road, and I'm singing there was a song. It was a hymn, not that one. It was actually a biblical hymn. I can't remember what it was. I remember I came down and I turned on this curve, and as I turned, the road went up before me, and I could see across the valley, I could see the mountains, and there was this beautiful rainbow stretching across the valley right in front of me. And I took a picture of it. Probably good time. I know it's still happening.
1042 back.
Yeah, at least.
I know, that's what mine was.
But, because it wasn't raining where I was, but the valley, just a few miles ahead of me, but I could see the rainbow. And it's, it doesn't have to be, it's just anytime you see a rainbow, for us, it should remind us of that promise. Just a quick reminder of the promise of God towards us, that He will not destroy us again without love.
Believing God can do it, I believe God can do anything, but believing that He can do it for me is
Yeah,
different.
yeah, I agree. I know what you're saying.
Well, that's what the leper said, he believed God could do it. He didn't know if he was willing to do it.
What do you do when you pray and you have prayer? You know that God could heal that or do that, but He doesn't.
You have to change your mindset. Like, He's going to heal everybody, He's going to heal me.
Well, there's
What
a,
are the magic words,
You have to find yourself worthy.
It's not magic.
Well, what are the words
Faith.
that you?
Faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. The more you hear the word of God.
you saying, what are the words for what?
God can do anything. And in my prayer, I pray, do I believe wholeheartedly that He will do it? Or, and it's evident that some prayers are not what I want, that even, God, what am I trying to say? God, I know God has a hand in it, but it didn't turn out like I wanted it. But I believe God can do it.
Right.
And I was specific. So when you say, please, I hold for it. How do you
There's
pray?
no magic word.
No, I knew that I didn't want you to think it was a magic word, but you use different words. in
Sure.
your
The
prayer.
whole thing with praying is, it's really submission. Like Christ's prayer in the garden. Hey, if there's a way to get me out of this, let's do that. But his heart's attitude was, not what I want. You know what is best. You know what's best. And
Also,
I think that my prayer set me up for disappointment as well.
oh, it's
I've been disappointed.
yeah.
And that's what I struggle with too. I understand what you're saying
Oh, yeah.
because to be specific, and you think that you're worthy, but you still end up disappointed after disappointed after disappointed.
that's kind of like Noah's thing. It's just long patience. And
I'm tired of waiting.
Yeah, you pray, you ask.
I'm tired.
You ask
I'm
for-
tired.
and-
Sometimes I just get bloody mad.
Yeah. It's,
Well, sometimes God says no.
yeah, and that's where it comes down to simple faith and trust in the Lord is, you know, and it could just be, I'm gonna say no. See, it's kind of like a competition. Spurgeon was the same way. Spurgeon had the same problem. Spurgeon was depressed. That was his biggest struggle, was depression. This is the guy that they call a prince of preachers, you know. And you read his sermons and you think, how is this guy ever depressed? But his own failures, his own weaknesses is what drove him to depression. And all he could do was, he said, I read this, I think it was yesterday, it could have been this morning, but the only thing that kept him going was knowing that Christ died for sin.
Well, think of Paul, he had a thorn in his side. God never healed him.
Yeah.
Great.
The goal of the Christian, how can I say this, is the easiest way to put this. And forgive me for not saying it better, okay, if it comes out not like I want. Seeking to be satisfied just with Him. Just that that Lord, I can be like the psalmist says, I would rather be a doorkeeper in the house of my God than have a rich man's wealth. I'd rather just be a keeper of that stands the door, open the door, close the door for people. And my Father's house. That's enough for me. That's the goal for us is to get to that point where, Lord, I need, the tragedy that's in this room boggles my mind. But God, you are enough. You are what I need more than anything else. You satisfy the deepest longing. That's the goal He wants for us, to be satisfied just with Him. And that's not it's.
I want to make sure I tell God, Lord, that I am thankful and I appreciate and grateful for good things that have happened in my life.
I was always thought that,
When good things are taken away, then
yeah, but you don't, the thing is you don't ask Him why it happened or how come it happened or why me.
But I do.
Because you're not gonna get an answer.
I do.
You pray to ask to get through, to learn to survive where you're at now. Because if you ask why, I mean, that's just like when you're a little kid and you ask why. Your parents aren't gonna tell you why. You do it.
There's I understand what you're saying.
Well, here I am, an old person. And then to make the same mistake that I made yesterday.
Yeah.
Pray today like I prayed yesterday, and you know it's not right.
Well, if it's not working, you need to start praying a different way.
And you need, well, why don't I?
Get right.
Because I get,
Because that's what's on your mind.
I'm selfish, I want my family back.
Well, we all do.
We want God to line up for us.
Yeah.
So we accept things the way they are.
It's,
But you can't do that every day, or I can't.
We have to.
Once you start doing it, you can.
You have to have,
Once you start doing it, it's like everything else. You got to learn. So you do a little bit at a time, and eventually you're just gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna keep doing this for weeks.
I agree with that, when things happen. But then they're depressed. I think it may be the negative of your body.
Well, you do go back to it once in a while. We think about Cameron all the time. That doesn't ever go right.
the personality of the person.
I am more of a, I get a depression more than a lot of us. He's more or less like y'all say, you know, goes on. With me.
Well, I think hypothesis kind of does like I do. I can make myself busy so I don't sit there. Not saying you don't, but I have to
Well,
start
then we
making
go back
myself
to
busy.
the idea, well, did I eat right foods to make me that way? You know,
Yes.
if I had eaten this, then maybe I'd have been stronger, you know,
Well, at least you got your mind off on something else.
yeah. Hopefully it's an apple.
Lord, you made it this way, and you're in trouble.
That's right.
Are
you still there?
God to make me depressed.
What'd you make yourself? Gosh, it's 8:15.
Did it just hang up on you?
No, I don't know where.
I'm gonna rewrite this and I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Make it change. Well, let's pray and get out of here. Well, we submit to you this evening, Lord, the questions we have, what we've discussed in the last few moments. Lord, I pray that you be near to each one of us. Lord, your word says you're near to the brokenhearted and you raise up those that are cast down. For each one of us, Father, we find peace and comfort and joy in your presence, that you would draw near to us. For you yourself, Lord, you are our greatest need, your presence. Your word says, in your presence is fullness of joy, and at your right hand pleasures forever. So we ask you to draw near to us. You are our greatest need. And we ask that you will grant it for our sakes. So we ask it in Christ's name. Amen.
Yeah.